Welcome back to Farmers Inside Track, South Africa's most downloaded farmers podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Tembo, and today's episode is brought to you by Seriti Institute. Today we're looking at how and why Seriti Institute connects partners for lasting community change in South Africa. Too many development projects end when funding ends. Communities are left without the systems needed to sustain jobs, food production, or livelihoods. Here's my colleague Lisa Kanyavena in conversation with Juanita Pardesi, CEO of Seriti Institute, to unpack this.
We are joined by Juanita Pardesi, who is the CEO of Seriti Institute. To set the context, Juanita, how would you introduce Seriti Institute and explain its mandate and core areas of focus within South Africa's development landscape?
Thank you for having me. Seriti Institute is a South African non-profit and public benefit organization. We were established in 2009, and we work with communities and social partners to build livelihoods, not dependency. Our focus is on food security, climate resilience, youth pathways, enterprise development, and early childhood support. In simple terms, we help people stand on their own 2 feet.
So the Institute positions itself as a development facilitation agency, right? Could you elaborate on what this means in practice and perhaps how this approach differs from that of a traditional nonprofit or implementing organization?
We do not arrive with ready-made solutions. One of our core programs is community response, and that program aims to listen. We listen first. So we co-design with communities, government, and business. Our role is to connect, enable, and strengthen systems, not displace them. So when we describe Seriti as a development facilitation agency, we mean our role is to enable systems to work. So in practice, it means we do not arrive with a fixed solution. We all operate in isolation. We work with communities, government, and the private sector to co-design responses that fit local realities.
And Seriti places strong emphasis on the role of individuals as well as communities as drivers of change. Why is this principle foundational to the organization's development philosophy?
Its lasting change does not come from the outside. It comes from people who live the reality every day. So when communities lead, solutions last longer and work better. And that's the belief that sits at the heart of Seriti.
Speaking of lasting changes, can we touch on the values and operating approach in Seriti? I know it often highlights the importance of beginning with community engagement. Why is this principle of starting with the community critical to the design and implementation of your programs?
Starting with the community is critical because communities are not blank slates. They already have knowledge, networks, and a lived experience. So when programs are designed without community input, they often miss real needs and fail to take root. When communities are involved from the start, the solutions are more relevant, they're more trusted, they're more sustainable. So at Seriti, our community engagement helps us understand local priorities, power dynamics, and existing assets. It helps shape what we do, how we do it, and who should lead.
Juanita, can you please outline Seriti's people-centered design approach and perhaps explain how it informs program development from inception through to delivery?
We design with people, not for them. So Seriti's people design approach starts with listening. And before we design anything, we spend time understanding people's realities and constraints and priorities. So from inception, communities are involved in shaping the program. We test ideas early, we learn quickly, and we adapt as we go. Nothing is final until it works in real life. So during delivery, we stay very close to our participants and our local partners. We gather feedback continuously and we adjust where needed. This keeps the program relevant and responsive. So the people-centered design also means respecting dignity and choice. People build on what people already have rather than focusing on what they lack. The result is programs that are practical, that are trusted and sustainable because they are designed with the people, not for them.
Basically, it's for the people, by the people.
Absolutely.
In what ways does grounding interventions in lived experience contribute to relevance, inclusivity, and long-term sustainability?
Grounding interventions is a lived experience, keeps development real. It ensures relevance because programs respond to what people actually face, not what we assume they face. So solutions are shaped by daily realities, constraints, priorities. It strengthens inclusivity because voices are often excluded, are brought back into the design. Women and youth and informal workers help shape the response, not just receive it. It supports long-term sustainability. When people recognize their own experience in the program, they take ownership, they adapt it, and they carry it forward after the external support ends.
I want us to now move to partnerships as well as collaboration. I know Seriti places significant emphasis on tri-sectoral partnerships involving communities, government, and the private sector. Why are these partnerships essential for addressing complex socio-economic challenges?
Complex socio-economic challenges cannot be solved by one actor alone. Communities bring that lived experience we spoke about earlier, the local knowledge, the accountability. Government brings scale, policy alignment, and public resources. And the private sector brings investment, innovation, access to market. So on their own, each has their limits, but together we can shift systems. So for Seriti, tri-sectorial partnerships allows us to move beyond pilot projects to real work solutions that we can do at scale. So these partnerships are essential for us. Before we start any project, we look at how we bring in the private sector, how we bring in government, how we bring in local actors that understand the local dynamics. And these partnerships are therefore essential in changing how the systems work within a community.
Can you please explain what role does Seriti play in convening and coordinating diverse stakeholders to ensure collaboration results in tangible, measurable outcomes?
Seriti plays the role of facilitation and integration. We bring communities, government, and the private sector into the same room, but more importantly, we help them work together. So we focus the collaboration on practical results, jobs created, enterprise supported, food produced, skills built. An example is our Agri-node work. We have supported over 300 smallholder producers across multiple sites, built by shared infrastructure, used by dozens of cooperatives and informal enterprises, and enabled consistent market access through private sector partners, turning once-off production into regular income. So Seriti did not replace the partners, we aligned them, and that's what made our agri model so successful.
And Juanita, is there any example of how this partnership model has been successfully applied in practice, particularly within Seriti's community-based or Agri-node initiatives?
A strong example is our work through the Social Employment Fund. Across all 4 rounds, Seriti coordinated national government, local implementing partners, private sector, and communities to create over 13,800 work opportunities nationally, primarily in food security, greening, and environmental services. In Komati, for example, following the closure of the Komati power station, Seriti worked with government, community structures, local partners to implement a transition response. This resulted in 320 community-based work opportunities linked to food security, environmental activities, skills development, all designed to support longer-term livelihood pathways in a transitioning local economy. Another example is our Work, Learn, Grow program. Seriti coordinates communities, government, private sector partners through the Agri-node model. And since 2019, we have supported 729 smallholder farmers, brought 665 hectares of land into production, and we operate over 365 peri-urban and urban and rural communities. So all these initiatives, Seriti's role is consistent. We align partners around shared outcomes.
I guess the numbers don't lie. Moving on to programs and strategic focus areas, Seriti operates across multi-focus areas, right? Including food security, climate resilience, enterprise development, as well as early childhood development. Now, how do these programs align with and reinforce a shared strategic vision?
At Seriti, our focus areas are not separate programs. They are parts of one system. So our strategic vision is about building resilient communities with sustainable livelihoods. So the food security stabilizes households, climate resilience protects those livelihoods, and enterprise development creates the income and ownership. Our Aribapaleng program, our parent and caregiver program, builds the foundation for the next generation. So each program reinforces the other. For example, food security and agroecology improve the nutrition and income that supports caregivers and young children. The enterprise pathways ensure work does not end when funding ends, and our climate-smart approaches protects those gains over time. So that alignment allows Seriti to work across food, climate, enterprise, and ECD with one clear goal, that communities can thrive long after the program has ended.
The Work, Learn, Grow program places particular emphasis on agroecology as well as the inclusion of women and youth. What systemic challenges is this program designed to address?
The Work, Learn, Grow program responds to three systemic failures we see again and again. First, our food systems exclude small producers. People grow food, but they cannot access markets, inputs, or reliable income. Second, women and youth do most of the work, but see the least reward. They're often stuck in an informal, unpaid, or temporary role with no pathway forward. And third, our agricultural model is not climate resilient. It degrades soil, relies on expensive inputs, and breaks under climate pressure. So the agroecology helps us address all three. It lowers cost, it restores land, and puts back control in the hands of local producers. So Work, Learn, Grow is about turning participation into progression. From work to skills, from skills to income, and from income to dignity, and includes a huge focus on youth and women.
Through GreenWorks, Seriti promotes community-led climate action. Why is community leadership central to effective climate resilience and environmental justice interventions?
Community leadership is central because climate and energy transitions succeed or fail at a local level. Our work with UNDP makes this very clear. In the Just Energy Transition Survey led by Seriti and supported by UNDP, we engaged over 10,000 community members across cold-affected regions. And the findings were stark. Only 36% of the respondents were aware that just energy transition, and 58% felt that their communities were not adequately involved in decisions that directly affected their jobs and livelihoods. And at the same time, 61% of the employed respondents depend directly or indirectly on coal. Another stark finding was that 70% reported coal-related health impacts. So this tells us two things. First, communities carry the highest risk. And second, they're often the least included in shaping the response. So our GreenWorks program is designed to respond to this reality. We build climate action from the ground up through skills, community leadership, local community organizations, and practical work that creates income and resilience. The UNDP report confirms it. A just transition must be participatory, people-centered, and locally led.
I think I'm going to like the next program because I know it's in Setswana or Sesotho, and I know it means let's play, which is the Agri-nodes program. I know it focuses on parents and primary caregivers of young children. Why does Seriti view caregiver support as a critical lever for early childhood development outcomes?
This is also one of my favorite programs, the Early Childhood Program, Agri-nodes. Development begins long before a child enters school. It begins with the parent and caregivers. So parents and caregivers shape a child's nutrition, stimulation, safety, emotional well-being in the first years of life. And those early years determine the learning outcomes, the health, the long-term resilience. So in many communities, caregivers and parents carry the responsibility under severe pressure, poverty, stress, limited information, weak support systems. So through Agri-nodes, Seriti focuses on strengthening the caregiver and the parent first. We work through trusted community structures and ECD centers and directly with parents and caregivers to provide the practical tools to help them support their children. And our experience shows that when caregivers are confident and supported, the children do better. We see improved nutrition. We see better learning and stronger, more resilient families. So if we want to change outcomes for children at scale, the most powerful lever is the adult who raises them every day.
I want us to track back a bit. Earlier on, you did touch on Komati. Seriti has played a significant role in Komati following the closure of the Komati power station. Could you outline the context of Seriti's involvement and its role within the broader just energy transition?
When the Komati power station closed, the impact was immediate. Jobs were lost, local businesses felt the shock, the uncertainty spread quickly through the community. Seriti's role was to support the community, and we worked with government, labor, community partners to create work opportunities, build the skills, and strengthen the local food and enterprise systems. So through the Social Employment Fund, we created 320 work opportunities that focused on short-term work to stabilize households. Skills helped prepare people for what comes next, and the community-led initiatives that would last beyond the program. So within the just energy transition, Komati reminded us of something very important. A transition is only just if communities are not left behind. And our work in community, although in Komati, although very short, has made a very deep impact in 320 households in that community.
In terms of organizational impact and scale, since its establishment in 2009, Seriti has developed a national footprint. How has the organization evolved over time to support work at this scale?
As the demand grew, we invested more in strong systems, governance, and partnerships. We have built very strong program management, financial controls, learning systems, whilst all staying close to communities. So today our national footprint isn't about the size, but it's more about consistency and the ability to deliver across different contexts. So over time, we supported thousands of work opportunities across multiple provinces. And the partnerships has been a very strong focus area for us. Monitoring and evaluation has also been a very, very strong focus. We measure scale and we care deeply about the quality, because one strong pathway can change the household for generations to come.
And Juanita, can you speak to the scope of Seriti's impact, including the scale of work opportunities created, communities reached, and social partners supported?
Our impact has been far and wide. We've created over 22,764 work opportunities. on our Aribapaleng program, we have reached over 133,276 parents and caregivers. Our model is to work with local implementing partners, and we have over 105 local NGOs, NPOs, and CBOs that we partner with in delivering our work. We have about 665 hectares of land under production. We support about 729 small-scale producers, and we supported about 329 businesses or SMEs. And we do this across 362 communities nationally.
Why is it important for Seriti to move beyond short-term employment interventions towards sustainable livelihood pathways?
Short-term work matters. It provides that immediate income and dignity, but it cannot be the end goal. People need pathways into sustainable livelihoods, enterprise, long-term income. That is why Seriti focuses on skills and enterprise development and market access. So employment should open the door, but not become a revolving one. And our focus, therefore, has been about building this resilience beyond short-term work employment.
Speaking of enterprise development, Seriti has increasingly prioritized enterprise development, particularly for participants transitioning from social employment programs. Why is this focus strategically important?
As our participants exit the public employment programs, they still face the same barriers that kept them excluded in the first place. So without enterprise pathways, people just return back to where they were prior to the program. So the enterprise development allows income to continue after the program ends. It keeps value in communities, and it turns participants from beneficiaries into economic actors. And so therefore, when they on the program in terms of the Social Employment Fund or the National Youth Service, our huge focus is on building the skills, building those pathways, and ensuring that they have access to market. And to do that, Seriti has recently opened a social enterprise called Hluma Roots. And Hluma Roots' core focus is to create access to markets for our small-scale producers. And this helps us reduce individual risk by strengthening the ecosystem around their enterprise.
And what are some of the key structural challenges faced by emerging enterprise once program funding concludes? And how is Seriti responding to these constraints?
The first is access to market. Second, working capital and inputs. And third is infrastructure and business support. So Seriti responds to this by building shared systems. We have our multifunctional Agri-nodes that has common infrastructure that our small-scale producers can use. We use an aggregation model, and we have market linkages with the private sector. And now Hluma Roots will be playing that role in terms of creating the market linkages. So we have a multifaceted approach, but it is about balancing the scale with the local context.
How does Seriti balance the need to scale successful models while remaining responsive to local context and community realities?
We are very deliberate about how we scale. So at Seriti, we scale principles, not the templates. The core approach stays the same: community leadership, partnership, accountability. But the design adapts to the local reality. So each community has different assets, histories, pressures. So while the model is consistent, the pace, the activities, and the focus areas shift. The balance allows us to grow impact without losing relevance, and to scale without erasing what makes each community so unique.
As the year begins, what are Seriti Institute's key priorities and plans for the period ahead?
This year, our focus is on consolidation and depth. We're strengthening our livelihood pathways for participants exiting our social employment programs. We are growing climate-smart food and enterprise systems, and we are investing in local leadership and delivery partners. But at the same time, we're building a stronger organization. The goal is focus and not fragmentation. So for us, it is about strong governance, trusted partnerships, and the ability to support the impact at scale without losing our values.
What would meaningful success look like for Seriti Institute over this period, both in terms of impact and organizational growth?
So meaningful success for us is the impact beyond our involvement. It looks like communities earning income independently, youth transitioning into real work, enterprise, and further learning, and that local systems can continue to function without external support. So from an organizational perspective, success means resilience, strong governance, trusted partnerships, and sustainable funding that allows us to plan long-term, not project by project. And most importantly, success means staying true to our values while we're growing. So if we can scale our impact without losing integrity, community trust, and the people-centered design approach, then we're on the right path.
Lastly, Juanita, from a leadership perspective, what continues to motivate your commitment to this work, and what gives you confidence in the potential of community-led development in South Africa?
That's a difficult question because there's so many things, but what continues to motivate me is resilience of people. I have seen that even in the most difficult conditions, communities keep showing up, they care for each other, and they find ways to move forward. I have seen what happens when people are trusted, when they're given the right tools, the space, and the respect to lead their own solutions. The results are practical and not theoretical. It gives me confidence in community-led development as evidence, and I see that communities creating food security, supporting their young people, building enterprises, and protecting the environment. When systems stop working against them, that gives me confidence. And South Africa doesn't lack solutions. It lacks systems that listen. So when communities lead and institutions support rather than control, then change is not only possible, it is sustainable.
And that was CEO of Seriti Institute, Juanita Pardesi. This is Farmers Inside Track, and this episode was brought to you by Seriti Institute. Thank you for listening and keep growing with us.